Welcome to Orange Wave, your source for everything related to the NDP. I am your host, Will Adams. Today, we are going to talk about thin blue lines and whether or not the Earth is flat. Yes, you heard that right. You actually heard me just say that. Getting things started, I'm going to talk about Pierre Poilievre. Pierre started 2022 strong, supporting an unlawful occupation in the heart of Canada, having dinner with extremists, buying them donuts, and even ending the year voting against children under 12 having dental care covered, despite having his covered on the taxpayer dollar for 19 years. So as it's clear, Pierre Poilievre has hit rock bottom and chooses to continue digging deeper. So I'm sure you're wondering how he could have shattered our already really low expectations. My answer? He used pro-white supremacist imagery in a social media post. For context, 2 Edmonton police officers sadly passed away in the line of duty. Taking a moment to be respectful, my condolences go to their families. I hope you're doing all right. Pierre decided to honor these two's death with a social media post, and I think he did so in probably the worst possible way. This comes directly from his Twitter page. Take a listen. We mourn with the families and colleagues of 2 police officers killed in the line of duty in Edmonton this morning. Never take for granted that our law enforcement put their lives on the line every single day to keep our communities safe. Now, if that was all Pierre did and you just left it at that, there would be no problem here. In fact, I would probably say that that's actually a very touching and respectful way to respect the deaths of 2 of our constables. However, he didn't just stop it at there. He decided to end up attaching an image of a police badge with the thin blue line on it, which... So in case you don't understand what the thin blue line means and why it's a problem here, it was originally created as a sign of respect to police officers who had passed away in the line of duty. Nowadays, however, it's associated with white supremacy because during the Black Lives Matter protests, when people with common sense were protesting the fact that police brutality is wrong and that people of different skin pigments beyond white shouldn't be brutalized by the police, there was a counter movement called Blue Lives Matter, and their insignia was a US flag, but they took the red and blue part of it. They turned it black, and they added a thin blue line to the flag. Canada has a similar design insignia, and it's essentially just the Canadian flag, but they took the red out and replaced it with black, and they added the thin blue line to it. The thin blue line nowadays, although being created for being a show of respect, it has now been co-opted into being a symbol used for white supremacists and people who turn a blind eye to police brutality. This most recent display of political theater from Pierre Poilievre is obviously unacceptable, and for more reasons than you might expect. First off, police forces have stated directly that they do not want people using that insignia, that it's become associated with extremists, and the Ottawa police themselves directly stated that it's now an insignia used to identify extremists, and they don't want people using it to talk about the deaths of cops. At that point, Pierre cannot claim that he didn't know about it like he has with every other extremist stunt he's pulled. Pierre, as a sitting member of parliament who was in politics during the George Floyd protests, he should know better, and it is clear by the fact that he did this that this was a political statement. He decided to make the death of a police officer political, and quite frankly, I think it's completely disgraceful and shameful that he would do something like this. Point being is that there's no excuses for this type of behavior. Pierre Poilievre should know better, and this is reason 5089 why I will not be voting for him in 2025. Now, with that being said, let's get to the more interesting story. The Prime Minister. So, the right-wing establishment media and Pierre Poilievre voters and PPC voters, shocker there, are extremely mad at the Prime Minister yet again. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what terrible, terrible thing the Prime Minister did to deserve it this time. But this time, all he did, all he did was state a fact in a firehouse. And I think it would just be better if I played the clip for you. This comes from CPAC. Take a listen.
I got fascinated with the idea of flat earthers. Now, this is an entirely new phenomenon. There wasn't really any moment back in recorded history, not the ancient Greeks or the ancient Babylonians or the Incas or whoever else, who actually wondered whether the earth was actually flat or not. And Christopher Columbus, they knew the earth was round. There was no danger he was going to fall off the edge of the world. That wasn't what people worried about when he was setting off to discover the Americas or discover a shortcut to India. But recently, over the past few years, a whole bunch of people have decided that the world is flat. Now, everything we know about science, from the people we've sent to the moon, to the photos we've taken from space, to how we explain day versus night and seasons, we know that the earth is round. But there are a whole bunch of people out there who have decided that the earth is flat. And they hang out with each other, and they find different ways of proving to themselves that the earth is flat. Now, that may not seem like a very serious thing, because someone who believes the earth is flat is not going to necessarily cause tremendous harm to everyone else. Before much of this...
All right, so I predicted, I don't know if it was a Tribal post or a Twitter post, but I made a post on some social media platform saying, like it was like 6 weeks ago, what I said was that the radical right would be arguing to hell and back that the earth is flat because of the fact that the left said that it was round. And I was right. They're actually complaining that the Prime Minister said that the earth is fucking flat. Oh my god. And no, I'm not smoking anything. They're actually livid right now that the Prime Minister stated at a firehouse that the earth is round. I can't believe that it is the year 2023. Inflation is up the ass. Price gouging is a really big problem. And now the left and right are now starting to debate again about whether the earth is flat or whether the earth is round. So if this is not a really big sign that there's a really big gap for finding common ground between the left and the right, I don't know what else could convince you, because this is just some unreal shit. This is like something you'd see in a fucking South Park episode. But it is a reality in Canadian politics. And I saw a lot of tweets about it today, and conservatives are just livid by this. And we all know that the next step from this is going to be that conservative politicians, probably in the PPC, are probably going to start saying, well, how do you know that there's not four corners? And then they're going to try making the case that if you go too far, you're going to fall off a fucking edge. Like this is Minecraft. There's a world border. Like, the earth is a flat sheet of paper, apparently. Because the fact that the Prime Minister, at this point, is stating a fact that is undisputable, and his opposition is pissed off because, just to be pissed off at this point. It's getting ridiculous, and I think this is the reason why people can't take the Chinese election tampering story seriously, is because the people running it are the same ridiculous people who have lied time and time again about numerous different things. And I need you to think about it for a sec, because the right-wing establishment media is becoming very opportunist and very reactionary. Like, they lied to us about taxation being theft. They lied to us about immigrants stealing jobs. They lied claiming that there was a war on Christmas, and they run that lie every year. They lied about the Ottawa occupation. They lied about the Greenbelt being torn up. And currently, they are running the lie saying that trans kids are just a part of a social contagion. And guess what? If you disagree with them, you're apparently a groomer. You're a socialist. You're anti-Canadian. You're whatever other word that they've just desensitized us to and run into the ground, that essentially at this point just means 96% of the time that you win an argument with a conservative. I think the key takeaway to these two stories is that, first off, you cannot take extremist imagery and just claim you mean it in a different way. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's disrespectful, especially when you're making a police officer's death a political statement. And as for the other story, I think people in Canada need to work on their ability to use their common sense and their independent thinking skills. Like, that whole thing about the flat earth thing, like, honestly, to the people who are pissed off about that, do you even think for yourself, or do you just let the right-wing establishment media make your opinions for you? Like, that's actually a question I want to know, because at this point, you have become reactionary. You will react to anything. And it is becoming annoying, and it's dividing the country unnecessarily to a point that in 5 years it will probably be unrepairable.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Orange Wave. I am your host, Will Adams. I hope you have an amazing day, and remember, Jagmeet Singh loves you.